When using Nakisa Hanelly's Scenarios functionality, you're actually working with a snapshot of your organization's data, not live data. And for this reason, it's important to sync your scenario early and frequently to make sure that data most accurately represents what exists at the source. From the Actions menu of your Scenario Management page, you'll see the Sync Scenario option. This brings you to a page where you'll be prompted to prepare a report for all the changes that have been made to your source data since the last sync, or when you first created your scenario. The report will flag any conflicts between your scenario data and your source data, which you would then have to resolve before being able to sync. When working on your scenario, you have the option to verify that it meets the same business logic requirements used in your source data by using validation rules that are set by your administrator. From the Actions menu on the Scenario Management page, we have the Scenario Validation option. Clicking on this opens up a list of all the rules that are being applied to your scenario and whether or not they're being met. A full list of these are available in the Nakisa Hanelly User Guide, but as you can see here, we have rules to verify that all positions have names, or an abbreviation, or a parent node, for example. All the rules that appear here are chosen by your administrator. In this case, most of these rules have passed, but as you can see, one object was flagged for not having a parent node, so let's quickly check it out. If I click on the View Items button here on the end, a list opens up, showing me the objects violating my validation rules. As you can see, we have the Senior VP of Sales, which happens to be the root of my org chart in this example. So naturally, it doesn't have a parent node. In this case then, we can say that my scenario is valid and in line with my source data's business logic requirements. In Nakisa Hanelly, the data you have access to and the kind of work you can do within scenarios is determined by your user role and your application's environment. When collaborating with other users, it's possible that they may not have access to certain objects they need to work with. If these objects are available to you, you can share them with the users in your scenario by using the DropZone. From the Actions menu on the Scenario Management page, you can see that I have the option to open up my scenario's DropZone. Right now, I don't have any objects to share, so I'll show you how to add some to this page. I'll just toggle into two-pane mode and keep my DropZone on the right. And on the left side, I'll go ahead and load my scenario's org chart. To add a node to the DropZone, I could either click on its node menu, then click on Add to DropZone, or I could simply drag and drop it. From here, if I click on this node menu, as you can see, I have the option to manage who I share this object with, or remove it from this page. I'll just go ahead and click on Manage Shares. From this window, I can search for the employees I want to share this object with, and click Add to add them to the list. Then, I would click on Confirm to share the objects. So basically, the DropZone is a tool that allows you to share objects with users who may not normally be able to work with them otherwise. You can also use it as a space to store nodes for later and quickly access them while reorganizing your scenario's org chart. Simply drag the nodes you're working with into the DropZone and drag them back into your org chart into their new location as you go. In your scenarios, you might need to do more than simply move existing nodes around. For example, you might need to create new positions or employees. For both of these tasks, we'll start in our org chart, which I have open here. When creating a new object, I have to decide which parent that new position or employee reports to. So I can create a position that reports to another position, then create an employee that occupies the new position. So let's say that I want to create a new manager position under the Director of Sales over here. From its node menu, I'll click on Create Position. In the window that appears, I'll need to give this position a name as well as an abbreviation, then I can either create it right away or select Submit and Edit to add more details. And if I click on this, you can see that there are quite a lot of fields that I can populate. So here under my org chart, we can see that the new position reports to the one that I created it under. Creating a new employee is a very similar process. From the node menu of my position node, I'll select Create Employee, and in the window that appears, I'll provide their name. Once again, I have the option to simply create the object, or Submit and Edit, which gives me a new window with many more fields to which I can add details about this employee. As you can see, the newly created employee becomes an incumbent to the position it was created under, and both of my new objects have a little gray indicator on the upper right corner of the node, so that I can keep track of objects created within my scenario and objects that came from my source data. In some cases, you might need to create the same position multiple times. So for example, if you need multiple managers in the same department, you can do this manually, of course, but a faster way would be to clone the desired position. From the node menu of the position that I want to duplicate, I'll click on Clone Position. A window appears, and here I can choose the number of copies I need. So let's put 3 as an example, and click on Submit. It might take a minute or two to clone the positions if the number is high. But once it's done, as you can see, the cloned positions are added at the same reporting level as the original one. So in this case, under the Director of Sales, and since these are objects created within the scenario, they also have a little gray indicator on the upper right corner of the node to tell them apart from your source data. As we saw earlier, position and employee objects can have a broad set of data associated to them. From the node menu of any node, you can click on Edit Position or Edit Employee, depending on its type, to access all the details for that object and make changes if needed. You also have the option to delete position or employee nodes, but only the ones that have been created within your scenario and that don't have any nodes below them. You can't directly delete objects that come from your source data, but you can delimit them if necessary, and I show you how to do this in another capsule. So to delete a position or an employee, it's as simple as the actions we saw so far. I'll just click on the node menu for the node I want to delete, making sure that I see a little gray indicator in the upper right corner of the node, and click on Delete Position or Delete Employee depending on its type. I'll get a message to confirm the action, and once I do, the object is deleted from my scenario. It's important to remember that this action can't be undone, so make sure that it's what you want to do. When a new position is created, it has a standard reporting relationship to its parent node by default. But you may want to have other types of reporting relationships as well, such as dotted or double dotted ones. To do this, we'll just click on the desired nodes menu and select Manage Relationship. As you can see, in the window that appears, the position's primary relation is set by default, though I could change it by moving the object in the org chart itself. But I want to draw your attention to the 2 other fields. From these, I can search for other positions to create a dotted or double dotted reporting relationship, meaning that this position would report to the ones I selected here through a non-standard relationship. So let's say that this manager reports to the Director of Sales, but has a dotted reporting relationship to the VP of Sales. I would enter that here, click on Submit, and now if I go look at the positions under the VP of Sales, I can see that my manager has a dotted reporting relationship, indicated by the nodes border. The reason why the node appears here, even though the position reports directly to the Director of Sales, is because I have my org chart in the functional perspective, which shows dotted reporting relationships where they exist. Just to change how this is visualized, from the Toolbar's Actions menu, if I select the Manager perspective, we can see that the position reports both to the Director of Sales and the VP of Sales. As you may have noticed earlier in this capsule, it's possible to drag and drop nodes within a scenario. This is the main way in which you might want to restructure your organization. So by dragging a position node from one department into another, or from one manager to another, and by moving employees to different positions as needed. It's also possible to move multiple nodes at once, as long as they're all going to the same location, for example, under a new manager. To do this, I'll start by loading the org chart for the scenario in which I want to try this out. Then from the toolbar, I'll click on the search button to open a list of all the objects in my work area. And I'll use the filter panel on the left to narrow down the results to the exact positions or employees that I want to move. So let's say that I want to move all the sales representatives under the Director of Sales. I'll select filters so that my search only shows me the sales representatives. And I'll enable the checkbox here at the top to select them all. Then I'll go to the Mass Actions menu, select Move, and in the next window, I'll choose the position under which I want to move all the sales representatives. And of course, I'll click on Submit. Now if we go and take a look at this, as you can see, all the selected sales representatives have been moved successfully.